welcome to the and welcome to the Say Report. I'm your host Devin Decker, and joining me, my host companion, Sejan Sarowick.
Thank you, Devin. I'm trying so hard to not laugh right now. It hurts my jaw.
All right, that's good. I guess that leads me into the first question I want to ask you. Is it all right if I title this episode "The Face of My Father"?
Yes, it's perfect. It is the perfect way to title this episode. Oh my God. How are you doing today, man? What's going on?
I'm fantastic, and I think it's because I finally caught up on sleep.
Oh, nice. I thought you were going to say like Flash or something. I was like, what did you catch up on? No, no.
Yeah, I
Like,
caught up on Flash. That
Flash.
new exotic drug that they're making in the streets of Providence, Rhode Island.
You did say you hopped up on Goofy Juice before we got started. I took that to just mean soda pop, but
I meant
okay.
Dell's lemonade when I said Goofy Juice.
Even better, even better. That stuff is like crack,
Oh
so
God, it was so good. Yeah, that's they call it Flash now. It's a designer drug. I called it an exotic drug, but I meant a designer drug. No, I think it's because I finally caught up on sleep. Because can I tell you what I did yesterday on Sunday? We record on Monday nights. A little bit
Surprise.
behind the curtain of this airport. We record and release the same day. Take that, Attica. I don't know what that means. Anywho, so yesterday, right, a friend of mine was in town for the past 11 days, and she had to leave yesterday morning. Her flight was at 6 o'clock. So we hung out on Saturday night, and because I'm a respectable gentleman, I left at 10 p.m., went back to my house, slept for, well, let's see, I had to be at her house for 3:30, so I got up at 3 o'clock. So I slept for 5 hours. Well, I got home around 11, so 4 hours of sleep, right? I go to her house to pick her up, and then I take her to Logan Airport in Boston.
Mm-hmm.
And then I went back to my house to sleep for another, 2 to 3 hours before I had to take my parents to Logan Airport, also in Boston.
Gee, why didn't you all just pile in the car together? They could have hung out in Logan for 2 hours.
Well, because she was leaving at 6. My parents' flight wasn't until 4 p.m. So, because
man.
my way inconvenienced the least amount of people.
Except for you. Just inconvenienced
Yeah, it
you.
inconvenienced one person as opposed to 3. So that's why I came home from work and I took a little nap. I did my laundry in between naps. I did that thing that I think Einstein said it, or it's attributed to Einstein, that 20 minutes is the perfect amount of time to sleep.
Okay.
So I put my laundry in, set my alarm clock, set my timer for 20 minutes, slept for those 20 minutes, got up, moved my laundry to the dryer, slept for another 20 minutes, and then I got up and I watched 2 episodes of American Dad. It could be the American Dad. That could have put me in the mood that I'm in right now. And then my sister came home with pizza from Pizza Hut, not a sponsor, and Dell's, because she's like, today's gonna be the best fucking Monday ever.
And lo and behold, now we're recording, making it true. Her prophecy has come true.
The prophecy has been confirmed. The black man fled across the desert, the gunslinger in pursuit.
Oh man, we got to talk about some Dark Tower.
Yeah, the Dark Tower is probably going to be something we talk about. But Sejan, before we get to that, what have you been up to, buddy?
I've been reading about Nazis, just Nazis. I don't know if you know this, but today was a very important day in history. We're dealing with the Nazis.
Yeah, it's a bank holiday in the UK.
No, that's not. I don't think that. Okay, maybe.
Well, it definitely is a bank holiday in the UK.
But I don't think they're doing it to celebrate the Nazis.
No, everybody goes home and protects themselves because they don't want to be annexed by the Nazis.
Anybody that anybody that knows me knows that I've got a weird thing for history. I like weird stories and facts, and especially when they have to do with weird things like video games, movies, stuff that is trivial knowledge, some might call. I enjoy that. One of my favorite things to know trivial knowledge about is both World War II and cars. And this is actually a really big overlapping day for both of those. Today, August 7th, is the day when Volkswagen decided that they were going to stop making Volkswagens during World War II because they were being used to fund the war effort. And they got caught in some pretty nasty, well, they got caught in a Nazi con, essentially. It's kind of one of my favorite stories from World War II. What do you know about the history of Volkswagens?
Nothing.
Okay, awesome. This is actually a really cool little piece of their history. So Volkswagens are German cars, all right? And they were created and really they weren't created by the Nazis, but they were really pushed by Hitler and the Nazis because essentially they were supposedly cheap to make. And people would get jobs making them, so it was basically like the everyman car of Germany throughout World War II. Like they got really pushed by Hitler's regime to like everybody can get a Volkswagen. If you don't get a Volkswagen, you're not one of the cool Nazi guys, right? Like that was the way that they were pushed. And the way that you got a Volkswagen is that the whole family would save up for it. What you would do is everybody in the family got like either a piggy bank or a stamp book or something. So mom, dad, kiddos, grandpa, the puppy, everybody would get a little way to collect this money. And you'd put your your quarter, for lack of a better term, Nazi gold, whatever you had back then, into this bank or into this book. Every day you had to put a certain amount in. And then at the end of the week, you would go and you would give that money to the collector who would be collecting this money for Volkswagen, right? And after so long, your whole family would have paid off for a Volkswagen. And this was also helping the war effort because they weren't actually making the cars. The Nazis were just taking the money and just fighting a war with it. They weren't actually making the Volkswagens. So essentially, people were putting in all of this money every week. Mom, dad, like brother, sister, everybody was putting this money in every week to buy a car for the family. And it turns out that they were actually not getting that money to make the cars. Volkswagen was just a front for the Nazis to collect all this cash so that they could keep sending it to the war effort. And so August 7th was the day that Volkswagen officially announced that they were no longer going to be running that program anymore. And the Nazis lost a huge source of funding in World War II. So there you go. Weird trivial fact for the day.
I was in such a good mood. And then no, that's actually a super interesting story.
Yeah. But it's one of the big reasons why Volkswagen became huge. Everybody in Germany either was in the process of purchasing a Volkswagen or already had one. And so like Volkswagens became one of the most popular cars in the world, all on the back of the Nazi war effort. And then hippies kind of turned them into like a big like love bug thing.
And then hippies were like, "It's being ironic, man. I'm against the war, so I have a car that funded war, man."
Yeah, but like every counterculture that when it tries to be ironic, eventually it actually just becomes the thing that they do, and then it's no longer irony.
No, I'm pretty sure that Volkswagens are still made with 100% iron. They're always irony. Least favorite joke, but I make it far too often.
Oh man, but no, I've been sitting around. I'm still moving this weekend, so that's been the big thing this week is actually moving house. And shout out to the guys that I know are listening right now that helped me with that. Dre, I know you're listening and all that. So it was a fun weekend of just moving a bunch of my crap. And so I've been kind of like trying to do everything I can to not think about that. So I've been listening to podcasts, watching television shows, getting caught up on Nazi history, all the fun stuff.
All that stuff that you do when you're moving house.
Yeah,
Jeez. You know what I did this weekend? Do you know what I did this weekend?
What did you do?
Pedicure. First time, right? I popped my Pedicure. Pedicure cherry? I don't know.
Pedicure. We're going with that. It sounds so much worse.
I popped my Pedicure because, like, my toes, I'm like, you know what, I'm only going to
Now you're just making it sound like an Italian dessert. But anyway, keep going.
Pedicure. So my toes, like, I hadn't cut them for a while, and I had lost a nail when I was on vacation a couple of months back. Like, I just slammed it into a door.
Oh, so God, like, this story is horrible. Oh my God.
Bad, right? So I'm like, you know what? I'm going to do this one time. I'm just going to get it done. They'll be shaped and cut by a professional. I'll get my toes back on track. And then if I, imply the same regime with my toenails that I do with my fingernails, everything will be Barney, right? Well, no, Barney is bad. Everything will be the opposite of Barney. Everything will be Fred. So,
Yeah, Barney Rubble, trouble. Never mind. Keep going. Keep doing your thing.
anywho, so I go, and I went with my mother and sister, and I think it was my sister's first pedicure too. I'll be completely honest with you, because she seemed to be as in awe of this whole situation as I was. And I got to tell you, dude, I'm probably gonna do it again. And I can't wait until it's not like sandal weather, because I'll probably get like a little shade put on my nails, so
All
that I
right.
can look down and remember my great time. Like the Awe Network was on. Do you know what Awe stands for? Like I always
God, no.
now I wish I knew. I don't remember. It's like something entertainment. It's all world entertainment or something like that.
All women entertainment.
No, it's not all women. It's like world spanning. It's awesome because I always thought that like when I saw the Awe channel, I thought it was like some sort of Christian network, and I'm like, yeah, you're not for me, Awe Network. But yeah, the Awe Network was on while I got my toes done, and this woman, she like took care of my toes, and she had like this little, like wire snips.
Okay,
She had
okay,
like a
okay.
pair of wire snips that she was like working my toenails with.
Oh my God.
And she did my big toe on my left foot, and she like pulled out this huge chunk of like undernail, and she like shows it to me like, see, this is what happens. This is what happens when you don't value your toes. Things like this. Like
I
it
feel like
wasn't
this is
learning.
I feel like this is a scene in a Mike Myers comedy where like it wasn't this in Austin Powers where like he's in space for 20 years and comes back and they give him like a pedicure and he's just disgusting.
Yeah,
Or
it's when they
I
wake
feel
him
like
up
it's one of
from
those movies.
The Thing. He's in The Thing, cryogenic
Yeah,
freeze.
yeah.
So when they melt him down and his toenails are just
But I feel like it's
ridiculously
like
long.
every Mike Myers movie where like his character has to like go
Has
through the
bad
montage
toes.
of getting back into well, that's just part of it, right? He has like long scraggly hair, his nails aren't cut, like he hasn't taken a bath. Like they have to do all of this stuff to
And
like
they
clean
take a
up.
belt sander to his toe.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Like it was so yeah. But no, so like it wasn't belt sander bad, but like my toes have never felt better. And bonus, right? You put your feet into this reservoir of water, and like they just feel so relaxed in that. And do you ever see the episode of The Simpsons, Brother, Can You Spare Two Dimes? It's from
Of course.
season 3. It's when Herb Powell comes back, and Homer wants to buy the Spine Melter 2000. I would just like to point out, I only know all of this information because an hour ago this episode was on FXX. I'm not super insane. The chair,
Only slightly.
the chair that you're sitting in while you're getting this done, honest to God, is the freaking Spine Melter 2000. So you're having this beautiful back massage while someone is working on your toes. I think it's the closest you can get to feeling like a king. Honestly, is getting a pedicure.
That's awesome.
If you don't want to be inbred, go get a pedicure. $25. It's the greatest
yourself.
hour ever. Treat
Yeah.
yourself. and don't like think like I'm a man. It's worth it. It's worth it. Don't let the people who are close-minded keep you from getting someone to work on your feet. You're on your feet almost all the time. I was gonna use like a made up statistic, but it's not worth it.
No,
You use your
really,
feet a lot. You should take care of them.
considering that you walk on them every day, like yeah. But like the pedicure thing has always kind of weirded me out from the whole aspect of just like they're my feet, man. Like I don't need to punish anybody else with that. Like they don't need to be going after my feet. I can take care of myself. I don't know.
You'll only feel like that the first time. And then you'll have these beautiful feet, and you'll like want to show them off to the pedicure person. It's like that first time you go to the dentist and you get no cavities. You're like, I gotta keep this no cavity thing, right? So that I can show off to the dentist. And then
that's
they're
how
like,
that's how dentists get you. They shame you into keeping your teeth clean.
The enamel is worn away from your teeth, and I'm like, I don't know why. I've been brushing them 24 hours a day.
I'm sorry, are you not supposed to do that? Yeah, the day that I learned that there was such a thing as overbrushing, that's when I wanted to like flip a table in the dentist's office.
The day that I learned there's such a thing as overbrushing was in high school. A bunch of us decided to, as a bet, because we're the dumbest people in high school. We had a lot of fun, but dumb bets. Who could brush their teeth continually the longest?
Oh God.
So like 4 of us did it. I won, but my only prize was
But at
like
what cost?
super bloody gums.
That's when you challenge somebody to the cinnamon challenge, right in that moment.
Yeah. So
Wow.
yeah, I recommend a pedicure. The pedicures get the Devon Decker Say Report seal of approval.
So, if anything, the first 10 minutes of this episode today has completely proven our mantra. We will talk about it, anything and everything.
You know what someone said to me? A friend of mine, he listens to the show, but I don't want to name check him. He wants to start an entertainment network with me, right? He's like, you're really funny. I really like your podcast. How would you like to combine forces? I'm like, yeah, that sounds pretty good. And he wanted to call it like something that had nerd in the title. And I'm like, why are we going to put nerd in the title, right? Like, you're instantly labeling yourself right then. And, like, I don't want to pigeonhole myself to only talking about nerdy things. Like, if you listen to the Say Report, I try to talk about everything. And his retort was, yeah, but you guys still kind of trend towards the nerdy. And it's like, well, we're going to prove you wrong, man. Pedicures and Nazis.
To be fair, we did get kind of nerdy about both of those things. I'm just going to put that out there. Also, I enjoy this whole, I don't want to name check him, but I'm still going to make him sound like the dumbest human on earth when I imitate him.
Oh, Zach, I'm sorry.
And there it is.
That was fun. See what I just did there? That's the construction of a comedic bit. Anywho, so before I forget the face of my father, Sejan, did you see the Dark Tower this weekend?
Well, of course I didn't. I was moving all weekend. But what I did do was unpack all my Dark Tower books onto a bookshelf this weekend.
That's like the same thing.
No, I'm super excited to go and see it. I'm actually going to go check it out. Cheap movie days are the best in Ohio. There's like $5 for a movie, so I'm going to go check it out, I think.
All right, so then we will table talking about the Dark Tower till next week.
Yeah, I mean, sure. I know a lot about it already. This is one of those movies that I've been so waiting for, and so I'm just reading everything about it.
But
like,
buddy, I don't want to give you any of my
okay.
inflection of it.
No, that's fair.
Because I knew nothing going in, and I absolutely loved it.
Good, excellent.
Like to the point that like a lot of the things I'm seeing online, a lot of people's reactions being like, I had no idea what was going on. I didn't realize I needed to read the books to understand it. I'm like, dude, I loved this movie. What are you talking about? Like, it was still a great movie.
Also, that's a weird response to have to a movie based on a series of 7 books, being like, I didn't realize I was going to have to know anything going into it. Yes, the movie should be able to give you enough to stand on, but also, if you walk in and you feel like you're missing some stuff, there's 7 books for you to go read. Go right ahead and do it.
Well, and you know what the other thing is? Like, 100%, we're getting a little dark here. We try to stay positive on the Say Report, but I'm going to get a little bit dark here. You pay to go to the movies. I want to remind everybody that you pay to go to the movies. If you're watching something and you feel like you don't understand it, you can leave. And most movie theaters, if you're out of there before the film is over, you can get a refund.
At the very least, get a ticket to another movie, right?
Yeah.
Like, they'll be like, we can't give you a full refund, but we'll give you credit for another film, for another ticket or something. Sure enough, man. Sure enough.
Like,
yeah.
Like,
and I don't think that's very dark. I mean, like, at the end of the day, like, no, you're right. As a consumer, like we forget that sometimes. We pay money for something and then we feel like, oh no, like I've bought in now and I can't escape. And we forget that, like, no, like you're not trapped. They didn't lock the doors when the movie started.
Though sometimes I wish they would. Guy who walked in 40 minutes late to Fast Times at Ridgemont High. Why is it so dark in here? Because the movie's been on for 40 minutes.
Idiots. I'm super.
Yeah, you should be. I mean, what I will say is you should be super excited. I really, really liked it. But it is like strange. Like the 3 people that I've heard from who had nothing else, no knowledge of the movie going in, they all didn't like it. They all felt like it wasn't very accessible for someone who knew nothing. And I knew less than nothing, if that's possible.
Yeah, well, and I wonder if that comes from, like stepping away from the Dark Tower and just talking about some of this stuff like writ large. Like everything is based on something nowadays, right? And that's been true of movies since the beginning. Like some of the earliest films were based on novels and stuff like that. But
That's my
like,
favorite part in Capote. Sorry, I
yeah,
get Infamous and Capote confused. My favorite part in Capote is when Truman is talking to people about his next book, and he's like, "It'll make a wonderful film." Like that's
yeah,
one
yeah,
of the greatest American authors, and what they talked about was how they could make their books into movies so
yeah,
they could
right,
make more money.
yeah, yeah,
Like
yeah.
it's not
So
new.
right, right. So it's not a new idea that this stuff gets based on things, and people, and a good project will help you out. Will give you the grounding where if you haven't read the comics, if you haven't watched the TV show, you can still enjoy the movie, right? And like, there's this thing where I don't know, like people. I think what it is that sometimes I wonder if people are expecting to have their hands held a little too often. You know what I mean? Like sometimes we get really upset when we don't know things, and that's not always the worst, right? Like sometimes I'm kind of upset with the amount of answers I'm given in both like TV shows and in sequels and stuff like that. And I just wonder if maybe this is just a trend of a larger thing where like I mean going into a Stephen King movie and not really knowing much and not getting many answers, like I love that idea. I'm so for that. I don't mind if I don't know everything that's going on in it. And I've actually like gone through those books. I don't know if I'm actually ever going to like remember everything about them. It's been so long. They're not like the Harry Potter books for me, where like I didn't consume them and make them part of my life in a way where like I know every little intimate detail. So I know there's going to be things that I miss watching this, you know. And it's the same for like when I go to see a Marvel movie, right? Like every Marvel movie is based on some arc from the novel, from the comics, right? But I haven't read every Marvel thing. I don't know everything that's out there. I know like bits and pieces, maybe roughly, and I still find myself enjoying these things. And sometimes some things happen that I don't have all of the answers for, But I don't know. I'm kind of okay with not always getting everything. So I'll have to see it and see how bad it really is. But like, if the worst of it is it feels like there's a bigger world that I'm not seeing all of. That's not so bad to me, right?
Well, first of all, I mean, most movies are that, right? Most
Right.
movies exist within a larger world, and we're only seeing someone's microcosm and perception of that macrocosm.
Yeah.
Look at those.
Yeah. Nice. Nice. That's some good college words right there.
Actually, I learned those in high school, but I was on the honors track. Anywho, yeah, actually, there was something strange about the Dark Tower, and maybe I found it refreshing because of that. Is I didn't get every little reference. I didn't know every little thing, and part of me really enjoyed that. Cause then, like when I see like a Marvel movie, that was something that I devoured. Like I discovered the Spider-Man. I discovered Spider-Man with the animated series in the '90s, and I loved that character so much that I just got my hands on anything and everything Spider-Man.
Yeah,
Like
yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
and of course because Spider-Man is sort of the web that connects the entire Marvel universe. Like I had information about Cap and Thor and Hulk and
Hmm.
Iron Man. So like I am very well studied in the Marvel like universe. Not the cinematic universe, just Marvel comics in general. So often when I see a movie, like I get all the little winks and references and like BuzzFeed the next day is like 16 Easter eggs you missed in Spider-Man Homecoming. And I'm like, I got all of these. What are you talking about? Right? Like, and
Right,
I like,
right,
because I need to understand that those 16 things are geared towards, the common man, the
right, right.
everyman, the person who hasn't spent their entire life consumed with Spider-Man. So,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
so
So like we don't know what other people are missing, I guess.
right, but that's what I'm saying is that for the Dark Tower, I kind of felt like John Everyman. I kind of felt like I'm like, oh, I'm sure that's something, but like, this is so entertaining that I don't care. Like I can look it up later, and then that'll be a whole different level of fun for me, right? Because
Yeah,
these
yeah, yeah.
people who didn't understand, that Donald Glover was playing the Prowler, in like his civilian like identity. They get to go and read that BuzzFeed list and be like, oh, that's cool. So like I've gotten to go read those same lists about Easter eggs in the Dark Tower and be like, oh, that's awesome. And I've gotten to talk to those people who are as devoted to that universe as I am to the universes that I care about, and have them geek out over the little things that like meant nothing to me. And that
Yeah.
was fun
Well,
too. It's been fun being on this other side of it.
yeah, well, and then and then I'm thinking on the other side of this whole thing of like movies out there that come from nowhere, that aren't based on these things for people to go and look into, that still don't give you all of the answers, and they end up being some of my favorite movies. Like I'm thinking of anything that the crazy dude there that did like The Fountain and stuff like that.
Darren
Uh,
Aronofsky.
yeah, yeah. Whenever he does a movie, right? Like it's insane, and you never get answers to all of the questions that they bring up, but you still enjoy yourself as you're watching them, right? One of the ones that I was actually just reading about the other day is the Criterion Collection just released Stalker, which is this gorgeous, gorgeous film that is like Tarkovsky, I think, is the guy that did it, and it's like this weird sci-fi story about this world that is it's been ruined. It's been completely ruined by some type of apocalypse, but you're never told what it is that actually happened. And then all you know is that there's these two worlds that exist. There is the world that they all live in that has been ruined by the apocalypse, and then there is the outside world that has also been hit by the apocalypse, but it is like considered unlivable and dangerous, so nobody's out there, right? And the stalker is this dude that escorts people out into that wilderness if they need anything. And so like the stalker brings these two dudes out there, and it's like this whole exploration of the world outside of the safe zone, and it's like this beautiful, beautiful, beautiful film. And you're never given any answers about anything. You're never given real like backstory or understanding of character. All you're given really is just visual storytelling, right? And it's like this huge like successful film built on this idea that you don't know what's going on. And like the idea that a movie like that it could exist, I don't know if it could do. You can't do that all the time, right? Because people just don't want that from their films, right? And it's not that I think that Dark Tower is going to be some like artistic opus or anything like that that like demands like respect from anybody that doesn't get it. If you don't get it and you don't like it, that's totally cool. Like I get that. I understand. Like if it pissed you off because there was just a bunch going on that you just didn't get, I totally stand behind that. But like I'm the kind of guy that goes and sees something like Jupiter Ascending, a movie that is batshit insane and has no leg to stand on in terms of like grounding or explanation, and I love every minute of it because I don't understand what's happening at any moment, right? And that's the
Sejan,
kind of viewer that I am.
Sejan, before I
Yeah.
call you a very bad man again, have you seen Atomic Blonde yet?
Oh, of course not. I've
Okay.
been moving all weekend.
Well, you very bad man. In Atomic Blonde, just because it's awesome, she ends up going into a movie theater. Guess what film is playing at that movie theater?
Oh my God! Please tell me it's either Jupiter Ascend. No, tell me it's Jupiter Ascending.
Yeah, yeah, no, it's Stalker.
That's
So
awesome.
like, just the cool Bader Meinhof of life, right, man? Like,
Nice.
the interconnectivity of all things.
Yeah.
Oh, very exciting. And you know what though? Like you say that about like you can't have movies like that, but that's sort of the narrative storytelling I miss
Yeah.
because like I always feel like I'm a plot whisperer because like these huge like plots and things that I just understand. Like when something is played for a huge reveal, like for example, the Spider-Man Homecoming has a pretty good like third act twist,
Yeah.
right? But
Hmm.
that was not a twist for me.
No,
I
and
saw that
like part of
coming
that.
miles and miles
Yeah,
away.
and we talked a little bit about this then. I mean, part of that is because we consume so much ourselves that we just kind of see that stuff as it is. But part of that is because that's also just good storytelling, is that you set that stuff up and it pays off. Like it's Chekhov's gun, right? Like you don't set up a character in the first act and a relationship in the first act that doesn't have some payoff in the third. So of course, as an audience member, you're sitting there waiting for that payoff. And if you're an audience member like you or me, who has seen this 1,000 times, you have a good idea of what that payoff's going to be, right? I mean,
Which
who's the
makes
dude
it
that wrote?
even.
Who's the dude that wrote Hero's Journey, right?
Oh,
Joseph Campbell, right?
yeah.
It's the guy, and it's the guy that like all of Star Wars that George Lucas built Luke Skywalker's entire journey on that guy. And like you watch Star Wars, and you knew by the third movie he was going to be all powerful and he was going to kick some ass, right? Like that wasn't a secret to anybody because we all knew this is the hero, and by the time we get to the third act, he's gonna have this Jesus like twist where he comes back from essentially the dead and saves everybody, right?
Exactly, but that's why yeah, because you're right, because that is something. And so when I'm watching a movie like The Dark Tower, and it is able to surprise me with the stuff that it does, just the way they tell the story, like I felt like I was the main character. I didn't feel like I was watching it. I felt immersed in it. So I don't know. Like I don't want to say anymore. I really don't want to do it, but like
Yeah, no.
there's a moment that is just full of tension. Like I
Yeah.
was in the theater just like, oh my god, just get to it, right? Like whatever's gonna happen, just have it happen. And it cuts away, and you don't get that release.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you finally get the reveal of it, I'm finding out at the same exact moment that the character's finding out. So
Yeah.
like I empathize with him 1,000% more
Yeah.
than if I knew, and now I'm just watching his reaction.
Yeah, well, and to me that sounds like really good storytelling. Like that's really good filmmaking and storytelling on the part of the creators because like knowing full well that their audience is going to be expecting A, B, and C, and being able to give them A, B, and C, but feed it to them in a way that it tastes like D, E, and F is like that's the dream. Is to do it to tell everybody the story they kind of wanted to hear, but at the same time tell them in a way that they didn't know they wanted to hear it. Right?
I agree. I 100% agree.
Yeah.
Whew. Exhausting. All this talk about like narrative and stuff. Hoopa joopa. What do you got, Siegen? What do you
Well,
got to bring us forward?
I just wanted to be looking to the future for some stuff, and I've been kind of looking at all of the Netflix stuff that's come out. Comic-Con was a couple of weeks ago, and there's been nothing but reveals from there as far as stuff coming out soon, Thor and all that good stuff, all the movies and comic lines that are going to be coming along. But one of the big things that I noticed this year over any of the last few years, and we're just going back to an old well on this, is there was a huge Netflix presence this year, a huge amount of stuff announced as far as Netflix projects coming forward. Part of that having to do with the Netflix Marvel stuff and the Defenders being this year, moving up to August of this year, weirdly, like that came out of nowhere for me, but also a ton of other really big Netflix stuff. And there's the usual suspects, like I said, like Defenders coming along its way, and next season of all your favorite shows. But the big one that I just read about that I'm actually really interested in is did you hear about Mark Millar?
They just bought Millarworld.
Yeah, like Netflix just invested hugely in Mark Millar and all of his like comic lines. And for anybody that doesn't know who that is, this is the dude that like wrote Kingsman. This is the dude that wrote Kick-Ass. Like this is the guy that like we have seen some stuff from him over the last few years, some good stuff from him over the last few years. And then on top of that, he's also responsible for a ton of the Marvel storylines that we have seen in theaters. Like he's written a ton of stuff for Cap. He's written a ton of stuff for other characters that we've seen play out in the movies too. So like Netflix has gone like heavy into this because basically what they did is they went to this dude, Mark Millar and his wife. I'm never going to remember her name right now, and I feel really bad about that. But the two of them own basically this thing that you called it with Millarworld, right? That's how they refer to it.
Yes,
and it's like this. Yeah, it's the production house for like all of the properties that he owns, and Netflix is just like, yeah, we just want to buy the whole shebang, like whatever you got, because we want to be able to pick and choose what you got for projects to try in the future. And the other weird thing about it is they said they want to do everything from full on R-rated films all the way down to kids shows. Like they just want to be able to pull from all of it.
I don't know.
And so, like, what are you thinking?
I was a little conflicted about it. All right. So Wanted, right?
Mm-hmm.
James McAvoy.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
That is based on a Mark Millar book called Wanted.
Right.
It is drastically changed.
For
that
extreme.
movie.
Oh yeah, extremely.
Like,
but keep in mind that that's one of the very first projects of his ever to be purchased for a film.
Yes, exactly. Like 100%. And I understand that. So I see that and I'm like, oh, okay. Maybe we'll get like an actual factual adaptation of Wanted now, which would be interesting. But at the same time, his stories always leave me a little bit wanting. So it was a simultaneous like, oh, okay, maybe we'll get a Kick-Ass that like plays more into the parts of Kick-Ass that I really enjoyed. Because they're like the Kick-Ass movie adaptation, the first one definitely, it deviated so much from the book that I didn't really find it enjoyable.
Hmm.
Like I really liked the book and then I didn't like the movie. And that was one of those weird ones that they were being developed simultaneously.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And then Kick-Ass 2 is basically the Hit Girl miniseries. None of Kick-Ass 2 was present. So that was really, really good. Like, it was an enjoyable time. But, like, I'd like them to go back to that and, like, tell, like, what that story would really be like. And the beauty of Netflix is that, like, they're going to be able to delve into that stuff that is not, like, will it play for like, Middle America? Netflix doesn't care if it'll play for Middle America. So like there's that little bit of excitement for me, but then there's also that little bit that like I understand me as a consumer of narratives that his stories go like this inch further than what I ever really want from a story. Does that make
Yeah.
sense?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Like
Man, like there's some stuff in Kick-Ass and the Wanted comic series that go further than you really want them to go. I think is the perfect way of putting it. They get a little darker than you really kind of want them to get. They get a little more unsatisfying than you think they should be. Because I'm all for dark, gritty, unsatisfying story, like superhero stories, which is what he's going for in both of those series, right? And then like he takes it to a point though where you're like, I wanted this, but not this much. You know what I mean? And part of that's on me as the reader to just be like beggars can't be choosers sometimes, I guess. But I get what you're saying.
I mean, it's consistent with him. Like
Hmm.
he always like I don't mind the line, right? And like I'm not really someone who blushes at anything, right? Like nothing's really gonna turn me off. But like it's consistently with his stuff where I'm like, this was really good until this happened.
Hmm.
And that's what I said about like Kingsman, the Secret Service. Right? That's not the first one's name?
That's the first one. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. Like I loved that movie until a point. And then like I hated it. And the movie
yeah.
completely lost me. And like the fact that I'm excited for the Golden Circle, like I feel like I feel like what honestly like someone in an abusive relationship at this point. Like I'm gonna give him a chance, right? Like maybe it won't be so bad, but I'm still gonna get knocked around and disappointed. And like and maybe
Yeah.
that won't
Well,
happen. But
allow me to put a counterpoint out there. You're wrong.
oh, thank you. I'm glad that I'm wrong. That's all I needed. No, no,
No, man.
can I?
No, what it is for me is like I get what you're saying in terms of like him specifically and his projects in comics. But actually, I've got to say that when it comes to some of the film stuff, I've actually been really pleased with the adaptations because what they've done is they've taken all the stuff that I've loved from the comics and dialed it back or in just the right way that it becomes so much more consumable for me. Because like, whereas I felt that strongly with the comics with Kick-Ass, where it hit a point where I was like, I get what you're doing here, but this is going too far for me. The movie goes right up to that line and then doesn't go any further. So like that felt really good. And then Kingsman is exactly the same way. Like Kingsman goes right up to that line of being the full-on James Bond spoof, but pushed to a limit, and he pushes it so beautifully close without going over for me, and which is part of the reason why I enjoy that movie as much as I do. So I'm super excited for Golden Circle because it's the first time he's done a sequel and like been directly involved with the sequel of his projects. Because Kick-Ass 2, he produced and he was like there for, but he was not nearly as involved with it as he was for Kick-Ass. And then he's the one that did First Class as well, right? Like he wrote the script for First Class.
Yeah. And I
Matthew Vaughn,
love First Class. Like,
and
don't
I
get me
love
wrong.
First
No, no,
Class.
no, no.
He walked
First
away.
Class was the same director as Kingsman. I don't think Millar was involved with the story part of it. I'm not
Okay.
100%. Like, I mean, like, but I know that it's the same director as for
Matthew Vaughn.
Kingsman.
Yeah, Matthew Vaughn is who he's worked with for the Kick-Ass movies and Kingsman.
Right.
So I thought that he was also involved in First Class. But yeah, so like this is like a big thing where like them being around for the second movie together is important too. Yeah, I don't know, man. Like
All right.
I
So since we're
enjoy
having this conversation, this discussion, can I tell you the part in Kingsman that lost me?
yeah, sure, go ahead.
It was the dog scene.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm
I'm
talking
wait.
about?
Yeah. I'm waiting. I'm waiting
Uh,
for you to. Yeah.
like up until that point, that movie was so like fun and different and exciting, and then like the most fucking cliche thing ever is that whole like you'll have to shoot this dog if you want to be a fucking agent. And I'm like, there's no bullet in that gun. There's no bullet in that gun. This is a goddamn test. This is fucking stupid.
I
This
saw that
is
movie.
stupid.
Saw that movie twice in theaters, and I kid you not, somebody screamed both times, and somebody walked out the second time. So I, so
Stupid.
again, I get that you saw that coming, but I guarantee you that there were people that watched that movie that did not see that coming.
Okay, right, and that's great. But then I'm but like he, but also like he's so out of character in that scene, right? Like I get it. Like his loyalty is the thing that makes Eggsy different, right? I
Mhm.
understand that, but like put point the gun at Michael Caine, right?
He does.
No, he doesn't.
For like
He-
a second.
No, he doesn't. Like it's like this is the moment. This is the moment where like you can determine it. Pull the fucking trigger pointed at Michael Caine because it still blanks. You don't kill him, but you just prove that you're disloyal. You're out of the Kingsman, right? The fact that he doesn't even pull the trigger. Like I'm just like this is boring. This is lame. This is every other movie, and I rarely feel that way where like it affects me as negatively as it did with Kingsman. And I think that's because everything before that raised me up to this level of like I knew that like no one didn't have a parachute. Like I knew that they all had that stuff, but I still liked the way that it played out. It took these tropes that I knew and played with them in a way that got me excited each time. But like that one was such a disappointment to me. It's a disappointment to me now talking to you about it. But it
I
was
was so convinced that everybody else had killed the dog and he didn't that I was just like I hated everybody else.
oh no, sorry. I get it. Like I understand where you're coming from. Like and I feel that, but I'm just like no, like come on. It's just something that's used too often. So for them to be like, this is the one time we're going to actually hew with norms and things that have happened before, it ripped me out of the movie, like forcefully. And then I could never get back into it. You know how like when you're watching a movie, you're supposed to lose yourself and not see it as a film? Like
Sure.
maybe, like I don't know. I think that's like part of art is to get lost
Yeah,
in
yeah.
it.
Right, right.
I mean, and that could just be me. Like I
No, I'll
was
go with you on this
completely
journey. Let's do it.
in that film, and
Yeah,
then I
yeah.
was pulled out of it, and then like I never got back. Like the scene where Harry beats up all the West Baptist Church surrogate, Westboro Baptist Church surrogates.
Yeah, yeah.
Like I'm like, this is just like, ugh. Like I these are like
You mean one of the greatest single shot takes in cinema history?
fucking
But yeah,
gross.
okay.
I hate it. I hate everything about it. I hate
It is
everything
so well
about
done.
it because
Oh my God.
unfortunately I was floating above the film. I was not immersed in the film. So the thing that I'm thinking of is right now, even though these people are fucking ignorant idiots, they're still innocents. No
That's
one
the
here
point.
has done any. But
That's the whole point of the scene.
I hated that.
You're supposed to hate that that happens to them, despite the fact that they are terrible people. That's because Samuel L. Jackson is a bad person.
It just it didn't caramelize the way that it wanted it to. Like I felt bad, but like it made me mad at the movie. It didn't make me mad at Samuel L. Jackson. Because I felt like the movie itself was trying to be like, look at all these fucking assholes like dying, like because they're ignorant, and it's like, no, movie, like that's like ignorance is not a crime punishable by death. Sometimes I wish it was, but like you have to be civilized.
I don't think the point of that scene is that those people deserve to die like that. I think exactly the opposite of that is true.
All right, so okay, and you get that, and I understand that, but like the reactions that I saw from people afterwards and the reactions in the theater, like people were cheering, but it didn't feel like they were cheering for one of the single greatest single take shots in the history of cinema. It felt like they were cheering that these people who are stand-ins for people who like boycott abortion and all this other stuff that the Westboro Baptist Church does are getting killed. Like it
Yeah, I
seemed like
mean,
those people were like enjoying and reveling in the fact that these people were finally getting theirs. And
well,
I'm
then
like,
those are just terrible people, dude.
right,
Like
but
at some point, you gotta just like,
and
like,
you have to exactly. And I'm just like, oh my god, like these people do not deserve this. I'm sorry. And and it was like one thing to feel that way during the film, and I'm like, maybe I was just being too fucking touchy because I was a little bit mad at the movie already because I was disappointed with it. Maybe that's just me. But then like going online, I found articles and stuff that like celebrated again, not the cinematic achievement, but like that film was like, fuck you, ignorant idiots.
yeah,
And I'm like, why? Why are we happy about that? Like you're missing the point that they're still innocents. Like you don't get to I don't know. I think that might be something that I have problems with anyway, and it comes from years and years of watching Saturday morning cartoons. Is like we don't introduce enemies. It's never human enemies that are getting killed, right? Like it's
sure,
robots. Like the
yeah,
Foot
yeah,
Clan and Ninja Turtle is turned into robots,
hmm,
or like in Cobra, the Cobra forces are like heavily implied to be clones.
yeah. Or Power Rangers, the whole point of the Power Ranger putties is that they're just Earth brought to life.
Yeah, like it's like there's no consequences to that stuff, right? So, but in a weird way, it desensitizes worse than if they were really taking human lives because you don't even think about it.
Of course,
And
it
it's like
allows them to be it allows them to be like super violent, like hyper violent, and it's this ridiculous thing where it becomes this like detachment, and you think that it's okay because the thing's not real, right? But what you don't realize is you're still performing the act of like murdering somebody. I mean, this is the thing about video games all the time, right? There's countries in this world where they don't allow violence with humans. So what they do for like big ticket games like Call of Duty is they go back in and they replace all of the bad guys with like robots. Like that straight up is like one of the big things about Call of Duty. If you pick that game up in like Australia, you can get versions of that game where like it's not blood coming out of people, it's like oil and shit. Like it's crazy.
it's like
And
Protectobot being Contra in in Europe,
right,
where
right, right,
everything
right.
is everything's a robot, and I'm like,
Yeah.
but you're still killing stuff, and if anything, it's a little bit worse that you're like, yeah, I'm just killing robots, right? Because like
Yeah, there's
now
no consequence
murder
for
is
this.
really desensitized.
Now there's really no consequence whatsoever. There's no questioning what we're doing, not at all,
Yeah,
because we are clearly in the right when we perform in this way. Exactly, man. No, it's terrible shit.
and that's
No,
and
you're not
so
wrong.
then like watching that film where like, oh, how we'll make them robots is we'll make them surrogates, stand-ins for one of the most like reviled organizations by the left wing, which is what Hollywood plays to. I'm just like that's a step too far, guys, because they're still humans,
Yeah,
and there are
there's a
people
lot of
cheering
other.
for that.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of other like context of that scene that other people don't think about. The fact that it's a British film, all about a British agency, and the idea that the only Americans in the movie are Samuel L. Jackson and these people, like those are the only ones that you see, or or
Or that
Mark Hamill.
Samuel Jackson loves McDonald's because he's American.
Well, right, and so you look at Golden Circle, and you know that kind of stuff is going to happen with the statesman stuff that they're doing, and that, like, no joke, like that's the kind of stuff that they're playing with. But that's exactly like that is the sandbox that they are playing in and Millar does that in all of his stuff. Like you're saying, he plays a game that like goes just a little too far for you, and like I can totally see that, and I feel that same way when it comes to the comics. It's just that I'm super excited about the idea of Netflix getting a hold of this sort of stuff, not necessarily because I'm excited to see a lot more Mark Millar stuff. I am, but that's a separate thing. Really, what it is this is just a big indication of what Netflix is trying to do, and we so rarely get a glimpse at that because they are so secretive as a company. But the idea that they're willing to take such a big swing with such a unique like who out there thought they were going to go after Millarworld? right? Like, why not go after like Vertigo or like, you know, like one of the like smaller publishers like IDW or something like that, or Boom Comics even. But no, they went straight for like this really weird, but yet not so weird move, which Netflix is always great at doing. They go left, but it's not that left is the wrong way. It's just not the way you expected them to go, right? Like it's very bizarre and very cool. So like the other stuff, and like I said, this wasn't the only thing to come out of Comic-Con this year. Netflix has a ton of stuff on the docket that I'm excited about. So it's more about celebrating that idea of like, what is Netflix going to do next? We don't know, but at least it's going to be interesting.
I can't disagree with that. And honestly, even though like my initial thought was, man, he's really good up until a point with all of his stuff for me, I am excited to see those adaptations.
Mm-hmm.
Like adaptations that don't need to play within the rules of Hollywood,
Yeah.
because that's his whole thing, is that he's subversive. Like
Mm-hmm.
he tells his stories the way that he wants to tell his stories. And unfortunately, I also think that like part of that is that's part of the reason why like he loses me, because like Wanted is really really good, but then like something happens. I want to say it's in the 4th issue of that miniseries where I'm like, that was unnecessary. That was tasteless. That didn't like really work for me in any way. But I'm like, yeah, but like that's what you get, Devin. Like you can't be applauding the fact that he's doing something different than what you've already seen. But
Yeah.
then when he continues to do that and it crosses the line that you have yourself as a consumer of this media, be like, well, fuck you. Like you
Yeah.
have to
Well, and
take
you
the
know,
good with the bad.
but there are other artists that do that sort of stuff that do it in a way that aren't so upsetting. Like I'm thinking of like Warren Ellis or Garth Ennis. Like those are two dudes that do that is their whole bread and butter, is doing exactly what you're talking about. But yet, you know, we don't. I can't think of a thing that Warren Ellis has done that I thought was too much for me.
Yep.
Like he always goes to really weird, gross places, but it's never to the point where I get pulled out of the media like you're talking about.
Yeah.
So
Warren
like, you
Ellis was,
know,
I couldn't think of his name. I was like trying to like name check him because I'm like, because he's another person who does that, but like I find myself engaged the entire time. And
yeah,
he's
yeah,
still subverting the way that like we experience a narrative,
yeah.
and he's doing it his way, but like never to the point where I'm like, ugh, like what? Why was that?
Yeah. Yeah, man. I mean, like it's the kind of audience member that you are, and it's what you're willing to go with and what you aren't. And if Millar's not going to be that for you, like that's cool. Like there's somebody out there for you. Don't worry.
And that's the beauty of media.
All right, man.
Oh, jeez. I still have so much energy, CJ.
Let's do this for hours.
Let's
Let's
do
pull
it
a Dave Chappelle. Let's just stay up all night, just riffing.
Now I'm tired. Oh, I have a question for you, right? Here's a
Okay.
real question for you. And it goes back to, did we ever have the discussion about who sings under pressure on the podcast?
Well, what you mean, like Queen or David Bowie?
Yes. Or
They
is that
both
just a conversation
do.
that... Right.
I'm confused
Okay,
why this
no,
is even up for
well,
debate.
so it came up exactly. Okay, so I don't know. I was on that cruise like 2 months ago, right? And I went to a name that tune, and the question was, it was a bonus question. She played Ice Ice Baby and asked, what song does this sample, and who is the artist performing it, right? So I wrote Under Pressure, Queen, right? And she said the correct answer is David Bowie. And that really got under my skin because if anything, it's Queen featuring David
Featuring
Bowie.
David Bowie, right?
Like saying
It's on a
that
Queen album.
Yeah,
It's on a
a
Queen album.
right? Saying that Queen performed Under Pressure is correct, right? Saying that Queen
Technically
and David
correct.
Bowie,
The best kind of correct.
right, is like more correct.
Right,
But
right,
you're
right.
technically correct if you call it Queen. If you just call it a David Bowie song, you're kind of incorrect. Because
Kind of
even
wrong.
though he worked on the song, and like, because he helped write it, like, there's no doubt that he helped write it. It's on a Queen album, and the majority of it is Queen. Like, it's a Queen song, right? That David
Yeah,
Bowie is
right.
on,
Right.
right? It'd be like calling Human Nature from Thriller, right? It'd be
Yeah.
like calling that a Toto song. Because the Picaros are on it, Steve Lukather is on it, all of Toto plays the music behind Human Nature. They actually play most of the music behind Thriller, but Human Nature is the Totoist song of that
Right.
entire bunch. Like, it's written by Lukather. So, like, but that's not a Toto song, despite
Right.
the fact that all of Toto played on it, because it was released as a Michael Jackson song.
Right. That's weird.
You know, like, so, like, it's one of these things that, like, has been playing in my head on that side of it. Never really on the song itself side of it. But this past Thursday, I was at my new favorite obsession, which is Rockin' Cold Pizza in Bellingham, Massachusetts. Sejan, they got 20-ounce beers for $2.50.
Sweet.
It's delicious, and the food is super good. And they have, like, music trivia almost every night of the week. Like,
Excellent.
the first night I was there, they had musical bingo. And the second night, they had Name That Tune, right? So I'm like, this is awesome. So it's Name That Tune, and it's the third round, and it is in my wheelhouse. It is all songs that I know.
Nice.
Now, for each song, there are 3 points available. If you can name the song, name the artist, and name the year of release.
Okay.
So the song that plays, and the song that got me thinking about this, was All For You by Sister Hazel. Do you know that song? Have you heard about
I
that song?
do. I do know that song.
Wait. Can we? I want to see if you do something for me, right? Okay. Wait. I gotta get to my head. I'll just start from the beginning, right? Finally, I figured out. Only it took a long, long time. Now there's a ton about. Maybe 'cause I'm trying. There's been times.
It's not happening.
Oh! I just wanted you to say I'm so confused.
So confused.
Down that road.
Oh,
It's not
God.
happening. It's okay.
It's not
I
happening.
just thought that maybe you'd do the answer to my call.
I'm not going to sing Sister Hazel with you.
That hurts my heart. All of the things that you've done to me in our entire friendship, the one that really cuts the deepest is you saying you won't sing Sister Hazel with me. For the record. So that's the song that plays, right? And I put down Sister Hazel, All For You, 1997. Because I am convinced that is the year of release in my mind, right?
Okay.
So he comes down, he's giving the answers, and he says 1994 as the release year. And I'm like, 1994? No, that can't be right? But whatever, I still won the round anyway. I won a $15 gift certificate to this place, right? So,
Good,
like, I'm
awesome.
feeling pretty good, right? But then I'm going to the bathroom, and I'm like, All For You definitely came out in 1997, right? Like, I'm not crazy. Like, that's not just a number that jumped into my head. That wasn't a guess for me. That was something that I thought was fact in my mind. So I go online the next day, right? I'm not going to create an international incident as the winner, right? I'll be a sore loser all I can, but a sore winner, that's fucking disgusting.
Yeah. No. Nobody has time for that. Right.
So I go online the next day, and I look it up, and All For You on Wikipedia, it does say that it was released, July of 1997. But then it also says that the album came out in 1996. So I'm like, well, that's interesting, right? Because, like, the singles release date was 97, but then technically it was released in 96. So I'm already thinking about it. But then Sister Hazel had, like, an original album that they put out in 94 that has All For You on it, that is just an acoustic guitar and the guy singing. Like, it's a demo, basically, of the song.
Oh, God.
And, like, I listened to it, and I'm like, well, this is clearly a demo of it. Like, the guitar solo's not there. Like, it's just the guitar. The full arrangement is not there, anything like that, right? So it got me thinking about the fact that, like, if I have to give the release year of a song, right?
Mm-hmm.
Should it be based upon the version of the song that's playing? Because they clearly played the version off of the 1997 All or Nothing album.
But this is why karaoke bars and rock band and Guitar Hero always use the phrase "as made famous by," because what it sounds like to me is you're talking about not even Sister Hazel. It sounds like it's just this dude making a demo tape before like Sister Hazel
But
actually
it's
became a
still
thing.
called Sister Hazel, and it's still
But
like
that's not the song "as made famous by Sister Hazel" because it's not the one that was made famous. See, just
right,
that phrase covers your ass, right?
exactly. And it's also the
Right,
fact
right,
that
right.
like he played the '97 version. So like
Well,
if
then
I'm
all the more
listening to
reason.
it, then the answer should be '97, not '94. But it like got me like it just was like this strange thing that like I had never considered that
Well, and that's
because
always weird to me because like when does somebody write a song? Like when is a song considered release? Because I know plenty of musicians out there that write music and test them with audiences and are just like, I'm going to play you some new stuff tonight. And then like you hear a song you never heard before, and then 5 years later it's finally on an album. Is that the release date for that song, even though you heard it 5 years ago? like
or
that's a
or
weird.
or even as that one demonstrates, that album came out in like September of '96, and then that
Mhm.
didn't get released for radio play until July of '97.
Sure, of course.
So like, and then like I'm thinking like this is what happens in Doctor Strange when like he names the Chuck Mangione song, and they're like the year's wrong, and he's like nope, the album came out here, and they're like you're right, but it's something that like I never considered outside of that until like it hit me with a song that like it actually means something to me. Like seriously, you really fucking hurt me when you said you'd never sing Sister Hazel with me. Like, cause it's all for you, Sejin.
Oh no.
No, I'm just saying,
Uh,
like, it's a song that really like affected me, and like,
yeah,
I knew that, so it was just an interesting thing to think about it, right? Because
yeah, yeah.
like, I have no problem saying that Under Pressure is a Queen song or Human Nature is a Michael Jackson song, right? Even though I know the deeper musicality of both of those songs, the truth is pretty easy to deduce. But like release dates and songs, like Will brought up, he's like, well, like, so it's a Thriller remaster from 2001. Is that song considered its '82 release, or is it the 2001 remaster?
Well, and that's been the question with these things for years, right? Like re-releases of movies and reshoots and redos and like cleaning up of video games even, right? Like people talk about uh, I mean, going back to something we've talked about a bunch of the last few weeks, Resident Evil, right? When you talk about Resident Evil or when you talk about Resident Evil 4, like what people are actually talking about is a very specific version of Resident Evil 4 when they're talking about one of the greatest things ever. They're talking about the GameCube version. They're not talking about the Wii version, right? Or like Twilight Princess is a good example of that. Whenever people talk about Twilight Princess, you have to clarify what version they're talking about when they talk about it because the GameCube version was so different from the Wii version simply by being turned around, right? And then there's versions of movies that kids are going to see now that they'll never know is the original. My favorite example of this is one of my favorite movies of all time, The Nightmare Before Christmas. Did you know that for the first 5 years of that movie's existence, Patrick Stewart was in it? And he no longer is and never will be ever again. When Disney bought it, they destroyed the original copies of that movie. And like I bet like it's in the vault somewhere, but other than that, Patrick Stewart is no longer in Nightmare Before Christmas.
That's crazy. I did not
Hmm.
know that.
Patrick Stewart did the narration in the beginning and the end, and if I'm not mistaken, also played Santa. I might be mistaken about that part, but he definitely did the narration in the beginning and the end. And so like Patrick Stewart was credited in Nightmare Before Christmas and never will be again
Now,
because when
also,
Disney bought it, they lost the rights to it.
when you say that Disney bought it, I mean,
Hmm.
it was always distributed by Buena Vista,
Well,
right?
right,
Like,
but
but it
like
was when it became
within,
huge, right? Like,
yeah, yeah, yeah. They did
that
one of
was
those.
when
They
they
did one of
like,
those big business things. They did one of those big business things where one wing of the company owned it, and the other wing bought it from the other wing, so that the company paid itself, which is fantastic in terms of like, hey, look at how much money this movie made. Except that when you look at it, the company is actually just inflating the price on things and stuff like that. So it's one of those crappy instances of Hollywood just kind of like eating itself in order to make us all think it's bigger than it actually is.
so what you're
But
saying to me? No, just holding on before you say, but
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I have a clamshell of that movie that I bought when it first came out.
Okay,
Like Buena Vista, Disney not mentioned on it anywhere.
yeah.
You're saying if I slam that into a VHS player, there should be
It,
Patrick Stewart narration?
It should be, depending on exactly when you bought it. But remember, Disney got in on it like pretty quick. So like 5 years into a movie's existence in the '90s was a hell of a long time. It was a not as long of a time as you think it was, and also the longest time ever. You know what I mean? Like it's that weird like time warpy thing where Disney kind of got in there real quick in terms of like history, but if you bought it soon enough, there's a good chance you've got a really rare version of that movie.
I gotta check that. That's like the craziest thing I've heard. This might be the
Yeah.
coolest. Like, not a fan of Nightmare Before Christmas, right? Like, let's do some fucking backstory on the two characters of the Say Report. Not a big fan of that movie, but like, that's crazy that like it could be something like that. And I hate that I'm now going to check it. I hate that like I'm going to finish recording, and while it renders for something that everybody could listen to, I'm going to check to see when I purchased it and if it has a narration by Patrick Stewart.
Do you want to know another one of these stories that really kills me?
Yeah, why the hell
Trivia.
not?
We'll round this out with another trivia night story.
God.
So I got a trivia night story of what was the official release title of the original Star Wars film.
Okay.
What do you think it was? If you could answer it right now.
I believe it was just Star Wars.
Yes. Everybody, including myself, put down Star Wars A New Hope. Or it didn't even put episode 4 because I was like, that's the trick. That's the trick, is it wasn't episode 4 yet. It was just Star Wars A New Hope. Not even that. It was just Star Wars. It was within 2 years of that movie being out that everybody lost their minds over it, that Lucas was like, well, fuck that, I'm going to make 3 more of these things or whatever. And he's like, so it's episode 4, everybody, A New Hope. And they retitled it before it came out, right? So there's like versions of that movie that people had a hold of that didn't even have the subtitle to it. So for 2 years, that movie was in theaters as just Star Wars.
Yeah, I mean, I knew that it was that, but I'm fairly certain the crawl always began with that episode 4 thing.
Apparently not. I don't know, because as somebody that thought it was always called that, I would have thought so as well. But according to whatever this was going on this trivia night, it didn't even exist on the crawl. It was just Star Wars, and it got re-edited and recut while still in theaters, because movies would have been in theaters for years at that time. So while still in theaters, it got completely recut and re-edited to be Star Wars Episode 4 A New Hope.
So I will put down on paper that I knew that it was originally just called Star Wars. I knew that the whole New Hope thing happened once people lost their fucking minds about Star Wars. But I mean, like, I am like pretty sure in my heart of hearts.
I don't know how deep it goes, man.
Said, like, it's true. I mean, like, unfortunately, the winners fucking write history, right? So
Right.
he could just have been saying that since that re-edit. But, like, as far as I knew, he had always made it the 4th story because he liked that kind of stuff when he was a kid. He liked that, like, sometimes he didn't see something from the beginning, so he was just dropping into something.
Yeah.
And he thought that
Speaking
it would be
of not having all
way.
the information, right?
Yeah, or like Leonard Part 6. Like, that's another one of those things that's playing on that. It also features Bill Cosby. Fuck you, Bill Cosby.
So go do some research, folks, because like I said, I didn't even realize it never had the original subtitle. So
crazy. This is freaking awesome. Sejan, this was good. Thank you for making my already amazing Monday that much better.
Told you it was going to be good.
All right, so if you want to also make our nights better, I'm at Devin D. Decker on Twitter.
And I'm at Siege versus the World. Also, don't forget to check out our streams on the Lost Soul Limit. I'm under my same name, Siege versus the World, when I post stuff. You can find me on the Lost Soul Limit channel, but I always make sure my name's in the title.
And I am, when I play video games, Fox Zero. So,
Nice.
Yeah, come, watch, enjoy, join with us, because we're sending out positive vibes, and that's what the world needs now. It's love, sweet love.
Sweet love.
And now to get some more love, here's Will.
Thank you for listening to the Say Report with your host Devin Decker and Stephen Serwick. Please follow the guys on Twitter and Facebook by searching for The Say Report, and you can always subscribe on your podcast channel so this is delivered straight to you and you can enjoy it every week. With apologies to your mother, we'll see you next time.